Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolute sheer madness that was the 2026 World Cup. It was massive, it was historic, and yeah, at times it was undeniably chaotic. We've gathered all the data, the reports, and the post-tournament analysis to make sense of exactly what just happened. So let's get right into it. 104. Just think about that number for a second. That is a staggering number of matches played over 5.5 weeks across North America. To accommodate this wild first-ever 40-18 format, the tournament turned into an absolute marathon. The sheer logistical scale of that is just off the charts.
Which brings us to the ultimate question, right? Did a bigger tournament actually mean a better one? Well, to figure that out, we're going to dig into the underlying data, look at the breakout stars, and really examine the cascading effects this massive expansion had on global soccer. Let's start with Section 1, the 48-team experiment, global inclusion.
Right at the heart of this tournament was a massive philosophical tug-of-war. On one hand, you've got FIFA President Gianni Infantino relentlessly pushing for global inclusion. His whole argument is that football is a global game and shouldn't just belong to Europe and South America. But then, on the flip side, you have traditionalists, like former German manager Joachim Löw. Years ago, Löw sounded the alarm, warning that expanding the tournament would just dilute its sporting value and that ultimately, the actual quality of play would suffer. So he essentially had two warring ideologies tested on the world's biggest stage.
But listen, you can't deny the positive impact here. Expansion actually gave smaller nations a genuine shot at glory. We saw 4 debutante nations enter the fray. We witnessed historic, unforgettable milestones, like Egypt and Canada recording their first ever knockout round wins. And then, oh man, there was Cape Verde, the smallest nation by land area to ever qualify, became the ultimate underdog story of the tournament. They played with zero fear and actually held a powerhouse like Spain to a draw in the group stage. It was incredible, and honestly, it's exactly the kind of global inclusion FIFA was dreaming of.
But it wasn't all sunshine. Which brings us to Section 2, the flaws of expansion, gulf in class. Because the data exposes a pretty brutal reality. To put this into perspective for you, back in the 2022 World Cup, the biggest ranking gap in a group game was 60 places. Fast forward to 2026, and we saw 5 group games with a ranking gap of over 65 places. Take a look at these jarring numbers for teams like Iraq. They suffered some historically bad blowouts, ending up with a -11 goal differential in a brutal group against France, Norway, and Senegal. It was a really tough watch. And the mess wasn't just on the pitch, it was off it too. Because of the crazy math needed to advance 32 teams from 14 groups, 8 third-place teams ended up moving on. This flawed system created a complete logistical nightmare. I mean, imagine flying across the world, pouring your heart out on the field, and then sitting in a hotel lobby for days in total limbo, just to find out a math equation officially eliminated you. It completely sucked the life out of that sudden death drama we are so used to in those final group games.
All right, let's turn to Section 3. Spain reclaims the throne, a second World Cup. Because amidst all the chaos, the mismatches, and the weird logistical limbo, one team managed to cut right through the noise. Spain captured their second World Cup title, taking down the defending champions Argentina 1-0. The breakthrough finally happened in extra time with a massive game-winning goal from Ferran Torres. It was an incredibly tense finish, and it actually denied Lionel Messi, who, by the way, had a totally phenomenal individual tournament with 8 goals, that perfect storybook ending to his international career. So how did Spain actually pull this off? Well, it was a masterclass in watertight defending mixed with absolute midfield dominance and some serious youthful brilliance. Just look at 19-year-old Lamine Yamal. At an age when most guys are just trying to break into their club's first team, this kid is already a European champion and a World Cup winner. Crazy, right? Plus, Spain kept their cool under extreme pressure. Contrast that with the ugly scenes after the final whistle, where Argentina's Leandro Paredes completely lost his head and lashed out at the Spanish players. In the end, Spain's discipline, both tactical and emotional, is what won them the trophy. Moving to Section 4, heroes and bitter exits, changing of the guard. This World Cup really cemented a brand new era. We saw a stark, almost painful contrast between rising stars and fading legends. Norway's Erling Haaland absolutely announced his arrival on the global stage, scoring 7 goals and dragging his nation to the quarterfinals. Then you've got Kylian Mbappe, who casually won the Golden Boot and became the all-time leading scorer in World Cup history at just 27 years old. Meanwhile, the aging legends had a rough time. Neymar officially retired from international duty after Brazil's agonizing round of 16 loss to Norway. And Cristiano Ronaldo at 41 frankly looked like a liability. His lack of movement really hurt Portugal's attacking structure, squandering another huge opportunity for a deeply talented Portuguese squad. And those bitter exits bled right into the locker rooms and sidelines as well. Host nation captain Christian Pulisic fell way short of expectations. He left the tournament injured and took a lot of public heat from U.S. legends like Landon Donovan. Then you had Senegal, who totally collapsed, blowing a 2-0 lead against Belgium in the final 4 minutes amidst all this internal drama and unpaid bonus disputes. And maybe the biggest shocker of them all, tactical mastermind Julian Nagelsmann watched his German squad get completely paralyzed and upset by Paraguay in the round of 32. That disaster definitely accelerated his exit as manager.
Let's look at Section 5, the New World Rankings, a clear hierarchy.
Once the dust finally settled, the trophy was lifted, and, well, the managers were fired, FIFA dropped their brand new global rankings. And get this, for the very first time since the tournament started way back in 1930, the top 4 ranked teams in the world line up exactly with the 4 World Cup semifinalists: Spain, Argentina, France, and England. So after a month packed with Cinderella stories and wild upsets, the cream really did rise to the absolute top. The hierarchy of international football has literally never been clearer. If we zoom out a bit, we see another undeniable trend. Europe has an iron grip on the sport. Post-tournament, UEFA holds 9 of the top 15 global ranking spots. Compare that to CONMEBOL, the South American Confederation, which has just 4. That's largely because historic giants like Brazil and Uruguay had shockingly weak showings, plummeting to 5th and 20th, respectively. Interestingly enough, these rankings also prove that sheer population size doesn't guarantee a thing when it comes to soccer success. These massive nations with huge talent pools are still really struggling to break into that elite tier. I mean, the United States, with nearly 350 million people, is sitting at 16th. Nigeria, with 242 million, is 26th. And the 2 most populated countries on the planet, China and India, they didn't even qualify for a 48-team tournament. It just goes to show that in modern football, you can't just rely on a big population. You absolutely need the infrastructure and the soccer culture to succeed. Finally, Section 6, a 64-team future, the next expansion. Now, despite all those logistical nightmares and lopsided scorelines we just talked about, FIFA President Gianni Infantino is already dropping hints about expanding the tournament even more. A 64-team World Cup is apparently on the table. Now, sure, on paper, this actually fixes that messy third-place advancement system we saw with Scotland. With 64 teams, you just take the top 2 from each group. Clean, simple, makes sense. But it would add 24 more games to a schedule that already feels completely maxed out at 104 matches. And, more importantly, it would create even wider, uglier talent disparities. Just imagine a group stage match between a powerhouse like Spain and a nation ranked outside the top 150, like New Caledonia. The gulf in class would be totally unprecedented. Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought to take away from our explainer today. If a 48-team tournament already pushed the absolute limits of sporting quality and logistical sanity, giving us some historically bad mismatches, are we truly ready for a 64-team World Cup? Thanks so much for joining me today. Keep asking questions, keep diving into the data, and we'll see you in the next explainer.